It's the Outdoor Home Stay-at-Home Cooking Show, and today we are going to do one of my original creations, BW's Angry Baby Back Ribs. And we're going to talk about the angry part here in just a second. We are going to do 6 baby back ribs today. I've already got 5 racks prepared, but I want to give you a little insight into the method we're going to use to get these nice and crusty. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to rub these down, and the recipe that I've developed over the years has sort of a rub that I've borrowed from other people and modified and made my own. We're actually going to make our own barbecue sauce on the Mini Max, and while our other 6 racks of baby back ribs go on over here, we're going to enjoy the outdoors like we're all supposed to be doing right now. And this is a really, really fun one. This is an all-day project. So I'm going to post the specific recipe and all the ingredients you need in the comments here. It's all written out. So if you miss something, don't worry about it. But I want to show you the major things. So these are pretty standard rack of baby back ribs. We've pulled the membrane off the back. For those of you that don't know what that means, there's basically a little film on the back that you just want to get your butter knife under and kind of pull off of it. Look that up if you've never done that before. We've already mixed up some of our what we call B-dub rub. That's got paprika, garlic, onion powder, cayenne, chili powder, oregano, thyme, brown sugar, regular sugar. I'm probably missing a few ingredients there. It's a great rub to have around. Maybe one of these days I can get Bevan RD to bottle it for me, so we can make it easy for you. But I'll post the recipe for that down here. The angry part of the baby back ribs is, of course, Angry Orchard hard cider. We're going to use what's traditionally known as the 3-2-1 method, which is 3 hours in the smoker, 2 hours covered with juices, and then 1 hour back basted with sauce, which we're going to make in the meantime. Now, these are a little smaller ribs, hence the name baby back. So we might not go the full 3-2-1 hours. We may just go 2 hours. We may go 1.5 hours in some of the phases. We're going to kind of play that by ear. But basically what we're looking for is that bone to pull in, the meat to start coming back um, before we put it in with liquid. And the liquid is going to be Angry Orchard hard cider. So what I like to do, I've mixed up the rub already. And like I said, we put that in the comments for you here. But I like to, we've already salted the ribs kind of just dry. We've let them sit for several hours salted. Not a bad idea to have that done overnight. This rub, as we mix it, does not have salt in it. So you do your salting before, let it interact with the meat. And then we just rub these very, very liberally. You can't really go too much. And you'll see there's some chunks of brown sugar left in here. I kind of like to push those in the fatty areas. Of course, that's sugar that will kind of caramelize over the period of the smoke. And just pepper that in there. We're going to get a good coating. Before I did that, by the way, I had a little nice little film of olive oil on there, or sorry, vegetable oil. That helps create a little bit of a kind of a bonding agent with the meat, if you will. And then we're going to take Heinz spicy brown mustard. For those of you that don't really like mustard, no worries. The mustard flavor does not really come through in the end product. It's just a good seasoning agent. It's going to help us make a really nice crust on these ribs. Now, yes, we're going to sauce them at the end, but I personally like a rib that has a crust on it that is just kind of like a bark, but also has some sauciness flavor to it. So nothing scientific about this, just rubbing it all over. And I've already done the other 5 this way. We're going to start at 250. It's a little hotter than a typical smoke. We're actually sitting a little higher than that right now, but it'll come back down. We've got a full firebox of charcoal, and what I did, this is a pecan wood recipe. You can use whatever smoking wood you like. I've found that pecan is just right for this particular um, style. And what I've done is I put maybe a third of the charcoal in, and then I sprinkled in some soaked pecan chunks, and then I put another layer of charcoal over that, and then put another uh, handful of chunks in there, and then put the last layer, and then put some chunks on top of that. So as the charcoal burns down, we won't lose our smoking ability. I'm actually going to put one of these on. Set this over here. So another thing we have going on, you'll see, is the Big Green Egg rib rack. This is going to allow us to cook 6 ribs at a time. And once we close this lid, we basically won't see these for another hour. I'll probably check them in an hour just to check the color. Like I said earlier, we might go a little less than 3 hours for each part of or for the first part of the smoke. And just like that, I'm going to try to get as much air separation. Ribs aren't exactly all created equal, so we want to just make sure they're not going to bend and set up a weird way. And what you'll see here in just a little bit, we're going to kind of insert some different pre-recorded stuff on this live section, so you're not sitting here 6 hours watching nothing happen. But while this happens, here in just a minute, we're going to start the sauce. And as you guys know, we're big fans of trying to do everything we can outdoors. So we've done our prepping inside with all the ingredients. But for fun and for the spirit of doing everything in the outdoor kitchen, we're going to try to make it all happen out here without the use of burners or ovens or anything like that. So, quick recap. I've got the vent set pretty low right now. I'm trying to choke it back down, and that opening that lid let some of the heat out, so that's going to be good. The ribs will absorb it. We're going to go at about 250 to 275 for the initial couple hours of smoke. Kind of judge it based on the color and the temperature there, and I'll show you what we're looking at here in just a little bit. And indirect, of course, pecan wood sprinkled throughout the firebox. We've got our rub made up. We've salted the ribs. We put a little coat of oil on them, put the rub on, sealed it all with some spicy brown mustard. And now we're going to prep. I'll look over here for just a second here. We're prepping our mini max because we're going to try to cook our entire sauce recipe out here. And I'll post the recipe, but we've got sweet onions and garlic that we're going to make kind of a sauteed mix to start with. We're going to go in with some ketchup, some mustard, a mix in of our rub that we've made up earlier. It actually gets a dose of Angry Orchard hard cider, and then it also gets some tomato paste and some honey to sweeten it up at the end. I, for one, love making my own sauces. It's a lot of work, to be honest with you. But if you're going to be outside and it's kind of an all-day project, I think it's a lot of fun to play with it. And this recipe has always been a crowd pleaser over the years. So we're going to let this keep heating up and get ready to make our sauce. And we'll see you back here in just a minute. 2 hours into our rib cook, and you can see we're getting some very nice color on these guys right here. Notice the bone starting to show through the meat. That means it's cooking, contracting in. We want to keep an eye on that. When it's about a quarter to half inch out of the meat is when we're going to pull them and put them into the angry mode, the 2 method of the 3-2-1 method, the 2 part of that. But now we're going to do something fun, and we're going to start our barbecue sauce. And we've got a very hot cast iron pan over here going on our Mini Max. Just very simple, direct, no convector in. This has just kind of been sitting here waiting to go. The only secret here is a little bit of heat. Now this is probably slightly over the smoking point of vegetable oil, but we're going to go ahead and Put in our onions. This is one medium-sized yellow onion and 4 cloves of garlic. I went a little heavy on my oil there, so what I'm probably going to do is soak a little bit of that back out. But we want this to saute for 3 to 4 minutes, and then we're going to add our um, ketchup and mustard and tomato paste and basically all the stuff systematically to start making a nice sauce out of this. Now at the end, if you don't like a chunkiness to your sauce, you can put this in a food processor and it'll make it very, very smooth. But having the raw vegetables in there in the beginning really adds to the flavor. So I'm going to take just a little bit of this oil back out. I'm a little heavy on that. We got nothing but time on our hands though. So we want to get the sauce done in plenty of time because the next part of the cooking phase, uh, we'll want the sauce to kind of cool and sort of mature up. A lot of pros suggest that you do your sauce the night before because it only gets better when it sits in the fridge and kind of marinates together. But we're doing this all in one day with the kids outside doing their thing. Go ahead and close that a little bit to keep the heat going. To get it to 450 degrees, I was wide open for 10 or 15 minutes. Hey, Anna, we're making a video. Say hi, everybody. Okay. Okay, so we have company today. Now, um, quick recap of what we're going to be doing with the ribs here in a second. If I had fewer racks, we're going to go, I would normally wrap them up individually and pour a little bit of the cider in individually. But for this application, I've got one of these nice aluminum pans, and we're just going to put them all in here and drizzle some of that Angry Orchard hard cider over them and cover them with foil. It's probably not the most proper way to do it, but it'll do the trick of adding that moisture back in and getting them up to the temperature we want them to be able to be very tender. And then after that, as our sauce cools, we're going to baste that over it and put them back in the egg without covering or without any moisture. And that's going to give them that final baking, that little sauce gooey action that we like on the ribs. Adds a ton of flavor. So back over here, we should be ready to add our ketchup. And I'm putting the exact recipe in the comments here, but we're going to kind of wing it a little bit here. I usually do about 2 cups of ketchup. I'm going to add a little more because we've got a few more racks of ribs than I normally do. We don't want that to burn. That's roughly 2 cups. Don't want that to burn, so I'm going to go ahead and start stirring it. Thing with sauce is you can always do it on the fly. You can always add more ingredients later and make it exactly how you like it. And we do roughly half cup of mustard with that, which should be exactly how much I have left in this bottle. I'm using spicy brown mustard. You can use whatever you like. I will add about a 1/4 cup of honey. And this is kind of our secret ingredient at the end if we ever want it to be a little bit more sweet. Keep some of that around. And I usually say about 1/4 cup of B-dub rub, which is going to kind of tie it into our ribs. We're going to put a 1/4 cup in now and then a 1/4 cup in here in just a little bit to taste. I'm going to go ahead and shut everything down here. Got a little on my egg. Go ahead and shut everything down here so that it doesn't scorch when we close it up. But the secret ingredient, which I'm going to need a bottle opener for, I'll run and grab. The secret ingredient is Angry Orchard hard apple cider. I used to use the traditional hard, the crisp apple, what they called it. I find this is a little bit less sweet, so you can manage the sweetness factor of it a little easier. I'm going to go open this while our camera operator gets her arm exercises. Close this up. All right, we're just going to put this straight in. It's going to make it pretty runny at first, but it's going to kind of reduce down. I normally do this in a little bigger pan, but I wanted to do it on the mini today, so a little less room for air. And then with that in there, we're going to go ahead and put our tomato paste. If you don't like hard apple cider, you can substitute apple juice or maybe sparkling apple juice or something that you find at the grocery store. This is basically just a thickening agent. And so all you want to do is pay attention, just make sure this doesn't scorch over the next 5 or 10 minutes while it cooks here. And then you can take it off and take it inside and let it cool and sort of marinate. So we'll get a taste of it here in a couple minutes and see how it's doing. We might add some more rub to it, or we might add even a little more honey or pepper or whatever we feel like it needs at the moment. But that's the base there. So we'll be back with you as soon as it's time to pull the ribs and finish up the sauce. Okay, we just pulled our ribs off, and you can see the bone is just starting to show here. Maybe an eighth to a quarter of an inch. In some places, more like a quarter to a half inch. That tells us that we're ready to put some anger on them. This is the Angry Orchard beer. Now, If I were doing a smaller batch, I might actually individually wrap these. But right now, really the point of this whole part of the method is just so they get some steam and have some moisture in there. And so they can finish cooking. And so we're just going to pour that in there. I actually might pour a whole nother one in there, given that we have so many of them. And I don't normally do this many at a time, so we'll kind of fill the bottom of that up. But then we're going to cover it with some aluminum foil. And when you're shopping for your supplies, never a bad idea when you're doing ribs to have the heavy-duty version of the aluminum foil in those big long rolls, because you can just do exactly what you need to with it. So we're gonna cover that and put it right back on the grill, probably for another hour and a half to 2 hours. We'll have a peek in about an hour and assess the situation. But that is going to bring him back up. I'm going to probably dump another bottle of here in just a second in there, but that will bring him back up to the temperature we want. It'll kind of melt some of those fat membranes, and this is the part of the cook that makes them super tender. And then we'll finish them off with some sauce. All right, we're back, and our ribs have been on for about an hour and a half, and they are getting really tender enough that we're going to go ahead and pull them and start the saucing process of the 3-2-1 method. So for those of you that weren't here earlier, the 3-2-1 method is 3 hours open smoke, 2 hours covered with a liquid, and 1 hour in sauce with an open smoke again. And the thing about that with baby backs is that they're a little smaller. They cook a little faster. Every rack of ribs is different, has a different fat content, and so we're going to have a different experience with each one of them. You just kind of have to know by kind of pulling the meat. You don't want it to get too tender. You don't want it to fall too much apart. And we're just at that point right now where another 30 minutes to an hour is going to make them at that level. So we don't want them to get overcooked in the 2 part of the 3-2-1 method. So we're going to go ahead and pull them. And as we pull them, this is going to be interesting. We're going to sauce them. And we're going to do that with just kind of basting some sauce over them. We just want a nice coating here. And the great things about ribs on a nice day is that you can go ahead and start them and go do an hour or two's worth of yard work and then come back to them. And so you don't have to waste an entire day cooking, even though it's an all-day process. It sort of gives you something fun to do in between your Sunday chores. You can see I'm just putting a nice coating of sauce here. Now, we didn't come back on live for the middle part of our sauce. I ended up adding a little bit of cayenne pepper to spice it up from what you saw earlier. And I forgot to add the apple cider vinegar, which gives it a nice tangy, a little more acidic, brings some of the sweetness down. And then I ended up also adding a little bit of thyme, a little bit of oregano to bring some earthy tones out of it. And then just a touch more honey. And it is tasting quite good. A little bit, somewhere between a Kansas City and maybe a Carolina type sauce. I'm a complete amateur, so this is a made-up recipe, but it is yet to fail me. We're just going to keep doing this for the ribs. Then, of course, we're going to pull our rib rack back out, and we just want it to finish in the smoke. And what's nice is that as our charcoal has continued to come down, burned down, it's met that extra layer of pecan wood that we put in at the start. And so you can see we've got a nice smoke still going. Now, I was told by somebody that meat actually only takes on the smoke flavor for about 30 minutes. So as far as your meat being smoky, having extra smoke beyond the 30-minute to an hour mark doesn't really make a difference, but it can compound and make that crust that we all like, or at least that I enjoy. You want to be careful. If your ribs are too tender, you might want to use 2 sets of tongs instead of 1, so you don't so they don't break. And these are just at that point where the fat is melted away. You can see they're quite flexible. This particular set of baby backs I got had a really nice fat content to it, which I think is key. If you have the choice of picking the ribs that you get, I think that's key in making them tender at the end. And our camera operator has definitely got her exercise in today. iPhones get really heavy after you hold them in the same position for about 20 minutes. And I'm just putting the last part of this sauce on the last rack here. This is a little redundant, but you get the idea. I want to remind you guys that we are making deliveries for your supplies. Today I'm using Big Green Egg charcoal. I've had the best luck with it for long smokes. I've never had an inconsistent bag of Big Green Egg charcoal. And actually, folks at Outdoor Home graciously delivered that to me last week, along with fire starters and a couple other supplies that I needed. So we're going to grab our oven mitts here and go ahead and pull this tub of juices off. This is mostly the remnants of the Angry Orchard that we had. And then we're going to pull our rib rack from earlier back out and just put them back like they were in the first position. We're going to set this probably for another 45 minutes, and then they will be done and ready to serve, or ready, in our case, to deliver to our family members who may not know this is coming. That's why we cooked 6 racks today, to do a little surprise cook. We'll probably keep 1 or 2 for ourselves, but then the rest of them are going to people who we haven't seen in a while. So we'll do this little trick here. Pull the rest of that sauce off on top. And we'll let this go for 45 minutes. That closed. as close to, uh-oh, I messed one up. Could be a free sample. We'll do this as close to 250 as we can. That smoke rolls out, the pecan smoke. And we'll see you here in just about an hour when these are ready to eat. All right, guys, 5.5 hours later, we have some angry ribs. And truth be told, I already took a sample, so I know we're ready. But we're going to pull these out. Actually, come in here. Let's look at this. We have a nice blackened caramelized coating on these guys. We have sauced them. We have let them smoke for about another hour. And they are just tender enough that you can pull one out without the help of a knife, and they'll just barely bite off the bone. So I'm going to pull these out so you can see them, and then we'll do a taste test for you just to make sure all of them ended up the way they were supposed to. But that bark, that little coating on top, is what adds that final flavor and that experience of biting into them. Actually, grab my extra pair of tongs here. Uh-oh, Nora got a free sample. A little bit on the hot side. This is where silicone tipped tongs make all the difference. Now, our crowd tonight will probably only be able to get a couple racks of these down. So we're going to wrap the rest of them up and deliver them out to unexpected friends and family. That's a great thing to do with your outdoor cooking. If you got the time that you're already investing and you got a few extra bucks that you can spare, um, throw an extra rack of ribs or an extra tri-tip or an extra brisket on, and deliver some joy to somebody else. Well, hi, Anna. Anna's been in the creek. Hey, we're doing a video. Say hi, everybody. She must be in the sprinklers or the creek, one of the two. We're going to cut one of these off. The only reason I'm using a knife is just so it's clean. See if we can get a taste here. Whew, a little hot. See how that just pulls away? The only reason I'm using a knife is because it is pretty toasty still, coming out of the 300 degrees there. But perfectly done on the inside. The fat is melted through. We have a nice, oh, good grief. Nora's going to get another sample. She thinks it's all right. Nice little crust on the outside. Tender. Very good flavor. That's the B-Dub Angry Ribs. Give it a try. Hope you guys are having fun cooking outdoors. We're going to see you guys real soon.